What up, everybody? Welcome back to Operation Moksha. As always, I'm your host, Chris Orozco, and today we're going to be talking about the distinction between self-worth and self-respect. Now, these are not necessarily the textbook definition of these words, but these are functional definitions that I'm going to use to convey two really important points about where self-worth and self-respect and just this idea of liking yourself through and through comes from. Because there's one that is given to you at birth, and that is what I call self-worth. This is one of the only things I think you are genuinely entitled to. And the other one is self-respect, which actually requires you to earn it. It requires you to behave in a certain way that you actually respect. And I'll go into that later, but first we're gonna start talking about what self-worth actually is. What is given to you by virtue of just you existing and being born. And it's really kind of funny because I actually first got introduced to this topic or this idea by Lisa fucking Simpson. I was sitting there watching an episode of The Simpsons and she said something about inherent worth just because she's alive or something like that. And it was just this like passing comment that she made, but for some reason it stuck out into my head. And it wouldn't come into play until much later in my life. So this idea is that there are certain things that are given to you by virtue of you simply existing. Like you deserve to be treated with love. You deserve to be treated with a certain level of dignity. You deserve to not be put up against like inhuman conditions. Like there are certain things that you are just born into this world deserving and entitled to. Love being one of them. You're not necessarily entitled to the love of other people, but you are entitled to the love of yourself, no matter what has gone on. And there's a reason for this, because this is why it's important to distinguish the version that you earn from the version that you don't. Because me saying that you deserve to love yourself no matter what you have done is different than saying that you are entitled to the love of other people no matter what you've done. And there's a really important reason for this that I discovered fairly early on in my shadow integration practice. Because if you want to make any part of your personality healthier and better and help it integrate, you have to give it love even when you don't think it deserves it. And that's where this whole idea of deserving kind of falls apart and is distinct from self-respect or deserving and being worthy of the love of others. Because if you are showing up in a dysfunctional, toxic, or just kind of shitty way, it is actually love that will help you get better. It is love that will heal you, help you break away from whatever patterns you've been enacting in your life, and help you to create something new. Because a lot of times, unhealthy patterns come from a part of us that we don't love, a part of us that has become dysfunctional and toxic and unhealthy because we've pushed it away for so long, that the way to get it healthy again is to start giving it love, start giving it validation, start helping it understand that it has an inherent worth, an inherent purpose in your psyche and in the world around you, help it find that purpose and integrate it back into your life. But you can only do that if you treat it lovingly. If you treat it with disdain because it doesn't deserve it or whatever, then it's never actually going to get the sense that it belongs. It's never actually going to get the sense that everything is okay. It will then never actually let go of whatever negative patterns it was creating. So early on in my practice of developing my understanding of shadow integration, I came up against these parts of my personality that I didn't have any reason to love. They didn't deserve it. They hadn't earned it. They were just fucking terrible, caused me a lot of problems, and caused pain for a lot of people in my life. And so this was my first real point in my life in which I had to contend with this idea of deserving, and also when it started to fall away. I started to understand that me as a human being, I am inherently worthy of love and dignity and to be treated in a certain way so that I can become the healthiest version of myself. And as I started to understand that not only myself and all the different parts that make up who I am and what I am will only become healthier when they get loved and when they get treated in a certain way, then all of a sudden the idea of deserving just started falling away in my mind, and it became more and more real to me that me and all the different parts that make up me and what I am are inherently worthy and deserving of love, not because they've earned it or because they're good enough or because of some other bullshit like that, but simply because that is the requirement for them to become the healthiest, best version of themselves so that I can become the healthiest and best version of myself. Love in this sense, this inherent sense of worth and love and all that sort of stuff, it's not earned, it's required. It's not, I don't even like using the word deserving, but it is required in order for you to become the healthiest version of yourself. If you think that you, yourself, or any part of you has to earn love before it is given, that part of you will stay unhealthy and it will stay disintegrated and you will stay stuck in your unhealthy patterns. But if you understand that love should be given to this part of you no matter what it is and no matter how it's showing up, then the idea of deserving itself entirely starts to break down. You become the healthiest version of yourself, and then you start to become someone who can actually behave in a way that earns your own trust and earns the love of other people around you, which is the next point that I want to get into. So what we just talked about was self-worth, right? And again, you can use any word that you want. I don't fucking care what word you use there. But there's this inherent sense that you and every part of you is worthy and deserving of a certain level of love and validity and just certain kind of good treatment so that you don't deteriorate further. But on the other side of that is you can't expect other people to love you if you're showing up in a really shitty and toxic and dysfunctional way. Like, I know you may want it, I know you may feel that you're deserving of it, but let's be honest, if you're behaving in a way that makes other people pissed off or pain or give other people pain or does anything other than make them feel good, you're probably not going to get a whole lot back in return, and that's just kind of the laws of the universe, and you can't really be mad at that. Because you do deserve to love yourself no matter how you're showing up so that you can transform, but there's no guarantee that other people are going to want to be around you while you do that. This is something that I had to deal with because I've had some shitty patterns in my past, and while I dealt with them, there were certain people that didn't want to be around me anymore because I just wasn't showing up in the way that made them feel good or safe or made it feel like I was making their lives better by being around them, and honestly, that's not their fault, that was mine. So I had to take responsibility for that, understand that I'm still worthy and deserving of love in the baseline way that I understood, but also act in a way that I felt was worthy and deserving of love and respect and all these other things. And this is the beauty of it, is this is where your conscience comes into play. I've talked about this before when I talked about guilt and shame in one of my other videos about how these types of things can help you figure out who you are and what you're all about and ultimately how you need to live in order to have a clear conscience. That's really what the conscience is for. It's kind of your own unique rule set to how to live with peace of mind. Everybody's conscience is a little bit different. There's some general universal stuff like you have to tell the truth, you have to be loving with yourself, you have to be loving with other people. It helps if you have something bigger than yourself to live for and devote yourself to. There's a set of universal laws that are required in order for you to have a clean conscience, but other people have certain things that are a little bit more specific to them. Like, I have to have adventure. If I don't have adventure, then I don't have a clear conscience. If I ever feel like I'm hiding it all, then I can't have a clear conscience. If I feel like the certain people in my life aren't adding certain things into my life, then I won't really have a clear conscience. Or if I feel like people are pulling on me. And again, a lot of these are still semi-universal, but they're kind of subtle enough to be worth addressing. And this is where you start to act as a person that you respect. If you can act in alignment with your own conscience and with your own values, and as somebody that you genuinely respect, you will start to respect yourself. Because the thing is, you have a template and a blueprint in your mind for what you consider honorable behavior. You see something in the world and you think, wow, that is good, honorable, respectable behavior. You see something in the world and you think, wow, that is fucked up, shitty, disrespectful, just not good behavior that I don't like. And if you do the things that you put in the second camp of shitty, disrespectful, not great, if you start acting in alignment with those things, then you're not going to see yourself as a respectable, honorable, worthy, amazing, wonderful person. You're going to see yourself as that other shitty thing that you have already defined for yourself. Whereas if you look out in the world and you see all the things that make you think like, oh wow, I like that person, I trust that person, I respect that person, I want to be more like that person, and then you actually do those things, you will start to see yourself as someone worthy of respect. You will start to see yourself as somebody worthy of all the good things that you could possibly want, and your sense of self will shift around that, and it will be much easier for you to go after the things that you want, the relationships that you want, to become the kind of person that you want to become, and just generally feel a whole hell of a lot better about yourself as you move through the world. Now, if you can manage to bring both of these together and understand that you have an inherent sense of love and respect and whatever entitled to you from the moment that you were born, but if you really want to feel truly good about yourself, you have to act in a way that actually shows you that you are that kind of person, and you do both at the same time, then your conscience clears up in some really beautiful ways. You feel really fucking good about yourself. You can go after anything that you want, and you can also meet all the new different parts of your personality that will come up on this journey that you're out on, or this path that you're on, or whatever you want to call it. Because as you keep growing, you're still going to find more parts of you that you don't like. You're still going to find more dysfunctional parts of your personality. But if you know yourself as someone who acts in alignment with your values, and you know that you're someone who is inherently worthy and deserving of love, then as you meet these new parts of yourself, you don't judge them as much. You don't judge yourself for having them. You see yourself as this inherently worthy, also respectable and commendable human being that just happens to have some weird shit in you that needs to be addressed, and you trust that you will because you know that you're that type of person because you've behaved that way for a long enough period of time. And eventually all these things really stop mattering at all. And the more you respect yourself and the more you love yourself and the more you genuinely act in a way that you feel good about, the more you will garner the respect of those around you. Because if you are acting in a way that you know is out of alignment with your own values, you're essentially walking around in the world as someone who doesn't do the right thing. They know the right thing, they know what it is, but they don't do it. And that is going to give you a really weird sense of self that is going to have you show up around people in a really weird kind of way, especially people you respect. If you see yourself as someone who doesn't do the right thing and then you find someone who does do the right thing, you're going to have a really weird relationship with that person. Maybe you pedestalize them, maybe you fucking hate them because you see your potential in them and you hate the fact that you're not living up to your potential. It gets so weird and so messy. So it's important to also acknowledge your projections of all this. Because in the beginning, while you're defining this, you may not actually know what your values are, you may not genuinely know what respectable behavior is, but if you can look out at the world and see, the quote unquote bad people, so to speak, the ones that aren't doing what you think a good person should do, analyze your emotional relationship to them, and see where maybe you're in alignment with them and where you're not, integrate that and deal with it. But then you also take a look at the good and respectful people, the ones that you think are good, and analyze your projections there and see where you're pedestalizing, see maybe where you're resenting, and do all the integrative work to make sure that you actually understand why you like what you like and why you don't like what you don't like, and integrate it so your mind gets a little bit more clear around it. As that happens, your mind will clear up even more, your values will become clear, your standards will become clear, the rules by which you need to live in order to feel good about yourself will become clear, and the more you act in alignment with them, the more you like yourself, the more everyone around you seems to like and respect you, the more opportunities you will get, the more confidence you'll have, the easier your life in general will become. And honestly, there's nothing in my life that I can think that is a more worthwhile pursuit than that. So if you have any more questions about anything about actually living this way and becoming this kind of person, let me know in the comments, because I will make more videos about whatever problems you have or whatever questions that you have, because I want this to be absolutely fucking clear. In my opinion, there's no more meaningful pursuit than figuring out exactly who you are and exactly how you need to live in order to be the idealized version of yourself that's still reasonable and human, and then actually live that way. Once you see all the doors that it opens and all the relationships that it brings in and all the cool shit it allows you to become and to do and all that sort of stuff, once you actually get there and you see how worthwhile it is, it's like nothing is comparable. So make sure you ask me all the questions that you have. Let me know anything I can help with, and I'll make more videos on it. But until then, I'm Chris Roscoe. I love you, and I'll see you next time.